Hello everyone, this is me Seb. Welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be taking a look at how to calibrate your HDR properly on PlayStation 5 and PC for your LG OLED C1, C2 and C3 using both the dynamic tone mapping and the HGIG. Now, just to be clear, HGIG is always the right tone mapping method to use. But the problem, some people feels that it's actually a bit dim. It does not have an impactful HDR because these TVs C1, C2, C3 have like a brightness between 750 to 800. And then if you add an equation that the game modes on these TV are a little bit dim, you lose like 20% of the total brightness when you select game mode. So combine that with an HGIG and you will get a little like a dimmer picture. So some people prefer to use dynamic tone mapping, but it's not accurate. However, it does have an impactful HDR, like if it's calibrated properly. So we'll be showing you how to calibrate this. So first of all, you will have to go to setting on your PlayStation 5 and then select screen and video. Then go to adjust HDR, and here what you need to do is go to your game bar menu, go to game optimizer, then go to picture, go to dynamic tone mapping, select HGIG. Then on the first page on the PlayStation 5 HDR calibration setting, you have to go all the way down. Then you will do 14 click up, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Now on the next page, you'll do the same, go all the way down. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. On the third page, you have to make sure that this is all the way down, like it's in the darker side. And click OK. Now you have a calibrated HGIG image. This will translate about 850 nit, 800 to 850 nit, which is the accurate brightness for these TVs. So in order to check this, to check that this is actually an 800 to 850 nit, I'm using Alan Wake 2 because the calibration setting in Alan Wake 2 can actually detect the maximum peak brightness of your calibration setting. So we'll go to Alan Wake. Now we'll go to brightness calibration, and you can see the game brightness, see the display peak brightness, it's actually 850 nit, which is actually accurate. So this is an accurate HGIG calibration. And this actually a game that is an HGIG compliance, so it works best with HGIG. There are other games that does not actually support HGIG. Not all games are GIG compliance. I think you can, there is a website on the, if you search in Google, it will take you to a website where all these HGIG compliance games available. You can check there if the game you are playing has an HGIG support or not. So now we'll be moving to dynamic tone mapping. Let's switch off the game. So we'll go again to the setting, screen and video and output, adjust HDR, and then we'll be switching to dynamic tone mapping. Now, dynamic tone mapping does not actually follow the maximum brightness of your TV because actually dynamic tone mapping apply a tone mapping on top of the already available tone mapping on your TV. You see, HGIG actually act as a default tone mapping. That's why it's accurate, but dynamic tone mapping, it's not. So I found like adjusting the calibration setting between like 3800 to 4000 or 4100 works the best with the dynamic tone mapping. Like you don't get an like extremely over brighting picture, or the highlight are not actually blown out. So what you need to do is go all the way down, then do 25 clicks from the bottom, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Then on the second page, you go all the way down. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. And on the third page, you make sure that this is actually all the way down. And we'll check this right now. We'll run Alan Wake. Now, as you can see, it's roughly around 4135 nit, which is very close to what we actually wanted the maximum peak brightness to be. So this is correct. So this is how you calibrate the HDR picture using both HGIG and dynamic tone mapping. Now there's one more thing that I want to show you or tell you. Not all games on PlayStation 5 actually support the system calibration level. Some games have it has their own calibration setting. So like those games will ignore these calibration setting. Now, in order for you to know that the game actually supports the system level calibration, see, when you actually run a game that support level the system level calibration, for example, let's go Alan Wake, or okay, you will see that you will see an HDR like HDR sign pop on the top right of your screen. Now there it is, HDR. It shows HDR. This is a game that supports system level calibration. And usually in games that support system level calibration, you will have just like in the screen calibration setting, you will have just like a minimal adjustment, like it will give you some brightness, saturation, which does not actually affect the HDR picture. Now, we'll run a game that actually does not support system level calibration. And for example, this Demon Soul. When I run this game, you will see that there will be no HDR sign pop on the top right of the screen. You can see it went straight to the game without giving you the HDR sign, which means this game, like, it has its own calibration settings. See, it took you directly to HDR adjustment. And that's it for the HDR calibration on PlayStation 5 for both the dynamic tone mapping and the HGIG. Now we will be moving to the PC HDR calibration for both HGIG and dynamic tone mapping. So this method only apply for Windows 11 because the Windows HDR calibration app we're using only available for Windows 11. So what you need to do is actually install this app, or maybe it's actually already pre-installed. So yeah, this is it, Windows HDR calibration. You'll download this one, and then you will go to your TV setting, game optimizer, go to picture, and dynamic tone mapping, you select HGIG. Now what's cool about this app is actually it shows you exactly what is the maximum luminance or maximum brightness you are selecting. So we go get started. On the first screen, we need to select minimum luminance. We need to make sure that this is actually on the all the way back to the darker. And then on the next screen, maximum luminance, we select 800 for C2 and C3, and I think on C1 it will be around 750 or 760. And on the third screen, the maximum full frame luminance, it's also will select 800. And on the color saturation, you want to keep this at least default for accurate color. And finish. Now we're going to test this. We'll be running Alan Wake 2 here also. We'll go brightness calibration, and you can see it exactly. The display peak brightness is 800 nit. The HDR Windows calibration work really well with HGIG. Now we'll be moving to dynamic tone mapping. Now the first screen will do the same. You have to make sure this is all the way to the darker. Now, here's one thing. In the maximum luminance here, as I told you before, that dynamic tone mapping work best between 3800 to 4100 nit. But I told you that the dynamic tone mapping, it does actually a double tone mapping. So it applies a tone mapping on top of the already available tone mapping on your TV. So here we don't need to go and select 4000, because if we select 4000, actually this doesn't go all the way to 4000. Anyhow, If we go and select, like for example, 2800, this will actually, because there is a double tone mapping, it will actually translate to around 5000 nits or 4900 nits in actual content. So it's inaccurate. So in order to get the maximum nit brightness that we actually want, we will be setting this to 2220. And here also we'll be setting this to 2220. No, 2220. Yes. We'll keep the color saturation at less, default, and finish. Okay. Now we'll be running Alan Wake to see how much is the maximum peak brightness that we got. We go to brightness calibration, and this is around 4200 nit, which is actually very close to what we want. So, and this is how you actually calibrate the HDR on PC using both dynamic tone mapping and HGIG. So if you like the content that I create, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching and see you on the next one.